God bless you and welcome to God at Work. We are here today and our subject is going to be on feeding the hungry. It's really been a passion of mine for many, many, many years in many places, and I'm really thankful that God has given me the opportunities to be a part of many programs feeding the hungry. But, Scripture tells us in Jeremiah 22:16, it says, He considered the cause of the poor and needy. So all went well. Is this not what it means to know me, declares the Lord? I know all of us want things to go well, and God just gave you the key right there. Consider the cause of the poor and needy, and things will go well. And I've found that God has honored that over the years. So I'm going to tell you a few stories today, and I think you'll enjoy them. It might even inspire you to feed the hungry where you're at. So God bless you, and here's a wonderful song that Jerry's going to start with. Ain't it good to know you got somebody who loves you?
Ain't it good to know you've got somebody who loves you? Now ain't it good to know you've got somebody who cares? Ain't it good to know you've got somebody who needs you when no one else even knows you're there? It's like a cool wind that blows, refreshing your soul. It's like a spring rain that falls, bringing life to all. And you look around and that love abounds. Now ain't it good to know you've got somebody who loves you? Oh, ain't it good to know you got somebody who cares? Ain't it good to know you got somebody who needs you when no one else even knows you're there? Through the dark clouds of sorrow, you see the bright day of tomorrow. And as the clouds begin to clear, someone who loves you is near to wipe your tears away, and you hear them say, qué lindo es saber que alguien te ama, qué lindo es saber que alguien se preocupa por ti, qué lindo es saber que alguien te necesita cuando nadie más sabe que estás ahí. Now ain't it good to know, ain't it good to know you've got somebody who loves you? Ain't it good to know, ain't it good to know you've got somebody who cares for you? Ain't it good to know you've got somebody who needs you when no one else even knows you're there? Yes, when no one else even knows you're there.
Welcome back, and it's so good to know you got somebody who loves you. And I know for the people that we were working with in our feeding program, they were so thankful that there was people that cared about them and loved them and weren't wanting to take their need and manipulate them to do something that they wanted them to do, but just wanted to help meet that need. It was so good for them to know there was somebody who loved them. So good to know that there was somebody who cared. And, like Jesus, he was talking to the multitudes up on the mountain, and all of a sudden, the disciples were wanting to send the people away because it was getting time. They're going to have dinner. And Jesus said, don't send them away. You feed them. But Lord, we've not got food here to feed these thousands of people. All we've got is a little bit of bread and fish. That's all we got. Feed them, because Jesus knew that God would produce that miracle along the way, as he did for us several times over the years. Mother Teresa has a great quote. I love it. It says, we can put that quote up, it would be great. It says, if you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one. Feed that one that's right there with a need right in front of you. That happened to me just not too long before, a few years ago, but it happened to me not too long, but before COVID, obviously. And I was at the point that, I was working in full-time ministry, didn't have a lot of money, but the restaurant, this guy going to pay for his bill, and he couldn't find his money. And the restaurant, they were going to call the police. And I called the waitress over. I said, how much is his bill that you want to call the police? I was thinking it was going to be 5, 10, maybe $15 for a lunch. And it was 30 some odd dollars. And I said, look, leave me the bill. I'll take care of it. Let him go. And so they did. And they told him, look, this lady wants to take care of your bill for you. And I gave him my card when he came over to say thank you. And I said, look, if you ever want to talk, just give me a call. Anytime, feel free. And so Friday, it was a Monday that I met him, and then Friday he phoned me. He said, can we meet for coffee tomorrow? I want to give you something. And in the natural, I thought he wanted to give me my money back for paying for his bill. But I'm sitting there in the Starbucks having a nice coffee waiting for him, and he comes walking in with a guitar case in one hand and a little black box in the other. And he looks at me and he said, do you play the guitar? And I said, yes. I didn't tell him, well, I can't play right now. This finger won't bend anymore. I broke it in 7 pieces, and, the tip joint won't bend at all. You can't even make it bend. And so I didn't tell him that, but I said, yes, I play a guitar. And I had been looking for one because I was hoping if I could find a nylon string or something, it would be easier on my fingers to try and start playing again. But anyhow, he handed me the little black box. And the little black box, it said, limited edition, certified number 27 of 100. So there's only 100 models of this guitar in the world. And he was giving me number 27. And he said, I want you to have it. He said, I have money. I have a very good job. That day in the restaurant was my day off, and I don't get dressed up fancy on my day off. Don't even care what my hair looks like or what I'm wearing. And I was in there looking scruffy, and they thought I was some bum off the street just trying to con a meal out of them. But I just wanted to have a nice lunch. And I had money, but I couldn't find it. It must have fallen into my pocket somewhere. So for showing the kindness that you did in helping feed that one, I wanted to give you this guitar. He said, I bought it looking for and wanting to find the best guitar I could find because I had decided I wanted to become a rock and roll star. Little did I know that this guitar that I bought would have been for rock and roll anyways, but I wanted to become a rock and roll star, and I was so happy, pulled it out of the case, tried to start strumming, and it sounded horrible. I'm sure it wasn't even in tune. And he said, I shut the case and never opened it again. It's only been out of the case once, so I want to give it to you. It was the limited edition Grand Orchestra Taylor guitar. So God honored, knowing it was something that I was looking for, God honored it and gave me this guitar just because of showing a little kindness and a little love to this one person that had a need. But over the years, we fed thousands of people. We started out doing a Christmas dinner for the homeless. And I had a very small church. We were meeting in the base, having meeting in a little old church that had the old-fashioned pews and all this kind of thing. And we had a kitchen in the basement. And started a little feeding program for the people that would come because we'd been meeting in the park, gathering up a lot of the homeless at that point. And so we started feeding them from just a little regular kitchen down in the basement. And every Sunday people would come. But it came to Christmas, and I wanted to do something special for Christmas. People you and I, we want a nice Christmas, and we want a full Christmas turkey dinner and that type of thing. And that's traditional here in Canada, a turkey dinner. And so we put it all together. And I did up these posters and went all over the town, putting them up in store windows and passing out letters to store owners explaining our need. And because I wanted to not only feed them a turkey dinner, I wanted to have Christmas presents for everybody. You and I, we enjoy our Christmas presents. Well, I want to have Christmas presents for everybody, for every one of them. I had no idea how many people would come. But I was sort of figuring we'd probably end up with, maybe 250, 300 people, and started putting things together. And I was in this one store, and they gave me a beautiful boutique fan to use as a Christmas gift. I mean, it was a couple $100 fan. It was beautiful. And then I still had no idea how many we were going to need. And then the lady that was my landlord at the time where I was renting, she came over and she said, Rauna, I have all these wool gloves. They're beautiful gloves. And I was going to put them in the store that my husband and I own, but we never got around to it. I'd like to give them to you to use for gifts. And I'm looking at them, I'm going through them and counting them, and there was about close to 400 pairs of gloves. And I thought, what do I need 400 pairs of gloves for? I'm only expecting a couple hundred people, 200, 250 people. And then I thought, okay, God, what's that? Why have I got 400 pairs of gloves? Plus all these other things that came along. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe they'll get a pair of gloves and another gift on top of it. I don't know. And then we're getting very close, just a week, 10 days away from the dinner. A lot of people had been calling, asking about it, wanting to know if they could come, if they needed a ticket or whatever. But at that point, I didn't even have one turkey. Not one. And to be honest, I didn't know how many turkeys I was going to need to feed this kind of people, this number of people, And I had no idea. But I got a phone call from this guy that was owner of a meat store. He had a butcher shop. And he said, I saw your letter saying that you need donations for your Christmas dinner. Do you still need donations? I said, oh, yes. He says, is there anything that I can help you with? He said, I have a butcher shop, and I'd love to help with anything that I can. And I said, well, your call is perfect timing. I said, our dinner is in 10 days. I don't even have one turkey yet. And if you could donate some turkey, that would be gratefully appreciated. He said, well, how much do you need? I said, I have no idea. I don't know how many people we're going to have, but from the number of gifts that I've got, it's maybe 400 people. And so that was fine. And he said, he was doing some calculating and said, okay, you'd need that amount just to feed the 400. He said, sure, I'll donate all of the turkeys. I thought, now where am I going to keep these turkeys until Christmas? And he says, look, I'll keep them here so they're thawing out in our walk-in fridge for you so they'll be ready to go before the dinner. And then I thought, now how am I going to cook all these turkeys? And the people in my congregation, there was only a few people that had homes and had ovens. So the ovens at the church and the ovens in our homes, they were going round the clock practically to get all these turkeys cooked. At my house, I'd put in a turkey in the oven, set the alarm, come out, pull that turkey out, put the next turkey in. I had turkeys going round the clock, as did several others. But we got them all cooked, ready to go, ready to feed all these people, still not knowing how many. But it ended up we had between 600 and 700 people come for that turkey dinner. Do you know we had enough food for everybody? We did not run out once, not once. We did those Christmas dinners over the years for 16 years until I moved to Hawaii. We did those dinners every single year for Christmas. We did a weekly dinner, but then we did the big Christmas dinners. And it was amazing the way the people were so touched. But not only did it touch the people that were being fed, it impacted the community. A pastor friend of mine in Hawaii, he made a comment once that I've never forgotten. He said, if your church was to disappear, if the people in the neighborhood got up the next morning and your church wasn't there, would they even know? Would they notice that you were gone? Well, our church was making such an impact in the community. They would have noticed, to the point that every Christmas dinner especially, everybody in the community wanted to help. All of city council came out to help peel potatoes and peel carrots and cut vegetables and get ready to help serve. The Boy Scout troop from the neighborhood, they came out and helped serve. The the mayor of the city was helping any way that he could. The Rotary clubs and the Chamber of Commerce, they were all out there helping. But the thing with all of the local politicians were out there. There was one of the ladies, she was one of the members of the city council. She came out every single year at the end when everybody else was tired. And she stayed for hours washing dishes, washing all the pots and pans. We used throwaway plates to feed the people, but she was washing all of the pots and pans every year. So the politicians that were coming out, they weren't coming out to spread their politics, looking for votes, etc. They were coming out to meet the need, to help be a part of meeting that need in their community. And it was so wonderful watching it. But at the end, before I was getting ready to move to Hawaii, it came to the point that we had to raise the funds. I was a little concerned that when I moved away to pastor down in the States, that the feeding program would suffer because it was mainly my traveling and speaking that paid for all of the food supplies that wasn't donated. And so I was really concerned. So I was thinking of a way, and I thought, "Okay, God gave me a really great idea." I loved to swim. I was a swimmer. And I had a meeting and I was talking with the mayor and I said, "Look, can you possibly help us arrange to have a couple of lanes blocked in the pool so that I can do a swimathon and do laps to raise funds?" And so the people would be pledging per length of the pool that I swam. And the mayor made immediately while I was there, he called up the pool and made this arrangement. He said, "It's done. Consider it done." And he said, "So we're making a pledge per length of the pool that you're going to swim, right?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, I'd like to make a pledge." And he pledged, he pledged $5 per length. Now he's looking at me, taking one look at me and thinking, now how many lengths of the pool would she be good for? Thinking I could maybe do, 5, 6 lengths, 25, $30, no big deal. Little did he know that I was a long-distance swimmer. When I was 13, I won an 11-mile race in the ocean. So he did not have any idea. And the people were making their pledges. It was in the newspaper that they were to be pledging. Can you put that article up just quickly, Jerry? See, I was swimming, raising funds. City pastor dives into a fundraiser. That's what it says. But anyhow, I was raising the funds. People were making pledges, $1, $2, $3, $5. And little did they know how many laps or lengths I was going to swim. Well, it came the day for the swimathon and started swimming. And actually, the mayor came out to officially start the race, start the swimathon. And I started swimming, and I'm getting up and up and up and up and up. And finally, at 104 laps, so 208 lengths of the pool, I stopped. And I didn't stop because I was tired. I got a cramp in my leg and I stopped. But, the mayor coming along the way, he said, "Rauna, when are you going to stop? When are you going to stop?" Another lady that had pledged $5, she was calling out from the bleachers, "Rauna, if you don't stop soon, I'm going to have to call my banker and get him to transfer funds." And so at the end, I said to all of them that had made pledges, I said, "Look, I know none of you were expecting me to swim as much as I did. And if you want to follow through with the pledge you made, wonderful. If you don't, I quite understand that somebody that pledged, thinking I was going to do 5 or 6 lengths, wasn't expecting me to do 208. And if you would like to, round off your pledge to whatever, I quite understand, but every penny is appreciated." Well, just doing that swimathon, I raised $18,000 to help the feeding program carry on after I moved away. But it carried on for 16 years. I had it going before I moved, and in that time, miracle after miracle took place. There was one time we were in the little old kitchen in that little church building that we were meeting in, and we'd fed everybody, served everybody seconds. If there was food, we always gave them seconds if they needed it or wanted it. And Then, all of a sudden, a group of 8 people came in after we had finished everything. The pots were empty. We'd scraped them to the end because we didn't want to waste any of the food, so if people wanted it, we gave it to them. And now we got empty casserole pots and nothing to give these 8 people. And I went into the kitchen and I was looking in the cupboard, seeing if we had any cans of stew or anything we could feed them, which we didn't. And this one young girl, she was a 16-year-old teenager, she was helping in the kitchen. She took a big wooden spoon. She just started stirring around the edge of the pot where all the burnt, crusty stuff, not burnt, but, hardened, crusty stuff around the edge of the pot was. And she started serving it, stirring it. And all of a sudden, we started serving up 8 steaming hot, fresh plates of tuna casserole. And then we'd also been serving a nice fresh green salad. And, you got an empty salad bowl. It's just got a little bit of dressing in the bottom and a few leaves had been sitting in it. And the next thing you know, we had a beautiful, fresh green salad in the bowl that got served out to everybody. God knew the need, and He met it. He met it so amazingly. Another time, we were getting toward the end of the month when people would get their checks, and then the first Sunday of the month was always the fewest number of people because people had just received their welfare checks. And so they asked constantly for hot dogs. And so we would do that the first Sunday of the month when they had less people because they had more money. And we would usually serve 2 hot dogs, a bag of potato chips, and potato salad. That was what that meal would be. And so at that time, we were serving, regularly every meal. We were serving approximately 400 people. So we would buy enough hot dogs and buns and make enough potato salad and chips and all that kind of stuff for that number of people so the people could have the 2 of each, etc. And all of a sudden, I'm looking out there and there's over 600 people. So instead of needing 800 hot dogs to give them 2 each, I was going to need at least 1,200 hot dogs. But God, what do we do? Should we just serve them one, and then if they want another one, if there's, because there'll be some left at that, then give them a second one? What do I do, God? And He said, serve it as you normally would. And we kept serving and serving and serving till everyone received 2 hot dogs in 2 buns with potato salad and a bag of chips. And it wasn't until we got toward the end and we were offering seconds that the pot finally emptied. Another time, God, just a miracle of supply, just like He did on the mountain for all those people when the disciples wanted to send them away because they couldn't feed them. God supplied. But then we started meeting the needs of the people in the community in different ways. When I came back from when I had been in Hawaii, I didn't have the church building, but my heart was still to be able to meet that need. And it had been proven that statistically, Christmas Eve was one of the worst nights of the year for people going into the hospital with depression and suicidal attempts and all this kind of thing, because Christmas Eve was when people were waiting. Everybody in the community was anticipating family gatherings, and the homeless, no, they didn't have families to gather with. And so we set up every year still to do those dinners. Couldn't do it last year with COVID, and the year before I was in the hospital and Jerry had to carry it on with a whole team of people without me. But it was amazing watching what God did. I remember the very first Christmas dinner we did. This one lady, we gave her the beautiful batik wall fan, gave her that for her Christmas present. And she opened it and started to cry. And I said, what's the matter? She said, well, this is beautiful, but really, I don't know what to do with it. I can't do anything with it. Now, this lady, she had a house But it was so filthy and run down because she hadn't taken care of it that she wasn't living in it. And so, talking with her, she was explaining that her husband had died and she became very depressed. She'd been a school teacher, so she had a good job, but she became very depressed and became an alcoholic. And when she became an alcoholic, none of her family wanted anything to do with her. I think she had 5 children, and nobody wanted anything to do with her. So she hadn't seen any of her family in many, many years. I think it was 17 years if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong on that. But she hadn't seen any of them. And so I started making phone calls and got in touch with all of her family. And, explained what had happened with the mum and what the mum had said, and that they might want to get together with her because we just found out the mum had terminal cancer. Well, the family all started getting in touch with the mum. We sent people from the church and got her place cleaned up. And then the next Christmas came. We were getting ready for the Christmas dinner, and it was all arranged. Somebody was going to pick her up and bring her. And she called and she said, Pastor Rauna, I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to be able to make the dinner this year. All of my family are getting together, and they've invited me. So she got to spend her last Christmas with all of her children and a lot of grandchildren. Some of the grandchildren she'd never even met before. But she got to spend her last Christmas together. She ended up dying in January. So she spent her last Christmas happy with her family. But God just was doing amazing miracles. And then when I got back, we started looking for other locations that we could meet. And there was a place downtown Vancouver. We went down there and did a dinner. It wasn't even the Christmas dinner, but we went down there and did a dinner. And you can see in the picture, Jerry's actually at the piano looking out at all the people. They were there, coming up the stairs, waiting to get down and to get seated. And that way, at that point, they were used to coming up and being given their plate and then sit down. Well, my custom wasn't to have them wait in a soup kitchen lineup. They came in and were seated at a table, and they were fed their dinner, served their dinner. People would come around with plates for them. People would, excuse me, people would bring them drinks and offer them tea or coffee or whatever. And they were fed in that way. And then we found a facility where we could have a Christmas dinner. And it had a huge industrial kitchen that we had to rent and prepared big turkey dinner for everybody. The next picture you can see there's my husband and a friend of his. They're cutting up all the turkey, carving it up, getting ready to serve. In the next picture, you can see a bunch of the people waiting for their dinner. They're all seated, ready to be served. In the next picture, you can see them getting served. And they're all there being served their dinners, turkey dinner. And there was music going on for them. At this place here, I wasn't working with Jerry yet, and so another friend of mine, Andy Park, and some of his friends were playing the music. Nice Christmas music, so they had the ambiance of a nice Christmas dinner. It was all decorated for them, nice tablecloths, and everything set beautifully for them. So they were getting a Christmas dinner like you and I would expect if we went into a restaurant. It was served, the table was set with the cutlery all wrapped up beautifully, and a dessert on the table, and their cutlery and everything ready for them. And they were so appreciative. People always tried to tell me, what's the use of doing all that? They're not appreciative anyways. You can't tell me that. These people over the years were so appreciative. I still run into some today that are thanking me for the work that we did. And then if you see the next picture, it's a Christmas dinner in another place in downtown Vancouver. There we are. It's all decorated up for them. Tables are all set, ready to go. You can they're having a wonderful time with, and here Jerry was doing the music. But the neat thing was this place, the pastor of it had heard about the feeding program that we had and wanted to know what we were doing and how we were doing it. He came out a couple of times with some of his key workers to see what we were doing and how we were doing it. And then they started their program. Now they were meeting right on the worst, most dangerous block in all of Canada for the addicts and crime and everything else. And they every single day started serving hot dogs to the people. The people loved those hot dogs and salad and chips and whatever they could serve for them. But it worked out beautifully. And then, so every Christmas we did that for several years. One of those Christmases, um, when Jerry and I were there, we met a whole group of people that had come in not for the dinner because they needed the dinner, but they needed the love that they felt in that place. And they were all working ladies. And so many of them through that one dinner came to the Lord, came to know the Lord, and their lives were changed. It was a wonderful experience. But then in that same place, in Canada today, which is July 1st, Independence Day in Canada, um, it's a big celebration, and people are going out to restaurants for dinner and having fancy dinners and fireworks and everything else. And so I wanted to arrange something special for them. And if you see in the next picture, we decorated it all up with all the Canada Day paraphernalia, etc., and had it all decorated. And we served them a beautiful ham dinner, ham and scalloped potatoes, I think it was. And they were so thankful they weren't being forgotten, because so many times those people, they get forgotten. They get completely left out and feel left out when they watch everybody else going off to celebrate. And then they were finished dinner early enough that they could go down and watch the fireworks down by the shore. It was such a touching experience for me. I just loved watching the people as they come in saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for what you do for us. Thank you for caring. Thank you for loving us. Then it came to the point um, when I was first back from Hawaii, we didn't have a building. We were renting other little facilities, and we, in the summertime, in the nice weather, decided we were going to have barbecues in the park. But we had help from the community. This next picture, this was the president of the Rotary Club that came out, and he's out there barbecuing up all the burgers and getting ready to help serve all the people. He was part of the Rotary Club, and his hat, I teased him about it, says, "Kiss the chef." But he came out, not because he was a part of the church, not because he just wanted to come and help meet the needs of the people. So we served in any way that we could to touch the people. And it became quite well known, because a lot of times when I was traveling, that's what I spoke on, was, meeting the needs of the people. And Jerry and I, when we were in Guatemala, we went and did a meeting at this church, mainly, and they were serving the people a dinner. This dinner we didn't do, but they knew that we were serving the people. So the next picture, Jerry, this is in Guatemala. And Jerry did the music, and I shared a little bit, but it was seeing the needs of the people being met, touching their hearts, their lives being touched. The next picture is a picture of me in Accra, Ghana, when I was in my early 20s. And I lived in Accra with some friends, and people in the neighborhood all kept coming by when they knew we were making meal, and so many of them came and had dinner with us. This is a traditional African dish called fufu, and it was, for me, a little dangerous. I was learning here how to make it. See, there's a little ball of dough in the big mortar, and the friend, he's got this big stick, and he's pounding it down on it. It's going really fast and hard, and I got to get my hand in underneath as he's pounding. I got to get it underneath to turn it. It was took quite a lot of learning to do, so I didn't get my hand smashed. But we fed the people in our neighborhood, just meeting that one person at a time, like Mother Teresa said. And then another time, took a team of missionaries down to Argentina. Now, my pastor friend in Argentina, he'd come up here and seen the work that we had with our feeding program many times, and was really impacted by it, and started something similar down there in a couple of different ways. And this next picture, number 14 actually, this is one of the musicians from Hawaii. He was our main keyboard player on the team, and he is serving up the food for the homeless that were living in a park. And there's this nice little old lady loving her food. In the next picture, you can see it. She's got all of her food there, and she was so happy with her dish. Eating away, she even went back for seconds and more. But she lived right there in that park, pretty much right behind where she was sitting. And then some friends of mine from Florida, they came up and helped at the Christmas Eve dinner we had down at this church down in the poor area, the drug area, and they started the program in their area. They came up to see what we were doing, and they were so impacted by it. They'd had a heart for doing this for so long, and they were feeding the people in the streets in Miami, in Florida. They were feeding them all. And it was amazing watching it spread. Then when we went to India, we went and did programs. We did a pastors' conference and fed the pastors that were there. The pastor that organized all the food for them. And then we went up to these villages. This was a little tiny, remote tribal village up in the mountain. And we fed all the people that were there. These ones were people that they were hungry, so many of them. And they loved a dish with rice and eggs together, and that they loved it. They're sitting there eating their lunch as we had our program with them. We did a service, and Jerry did some games and songs with them, and they had a wonderful time. But it was so incredible watching people as their lives are changed and touched through a little bit of love, through a little bit of caring. And God is so faithful in seeing it through. So faithful. And so I've asked Jerry if he would do a song here to close called Great is Thy Faithfulness. Because his way of doing things is faithful. No matter what we thought we could or couldn't do, God is faithful. God bless you, Jerry.
Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Summer and winter, springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow, blessings all mine 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.
Great is his faithfulness. He has proven it so many times, year after year after year. I will never doubt his faithfulness. But it's been so wonderful. And as I mentioned earlier, how my pastor friend in Hawaii, he said, if your neighbors got up the next morning and your church had disappeared, would they even know? Would they know it? Well, when I was getting ready to move from New Westminster, where my church was, to pastor over in Hawaii, the city was not really happy. Many people tried to convince me not to go, but I knew that I was supposed to. And not because it was Hawaii, because, Hawaii is nice, but I'm not a hot weather person. And the city actually had a going away dinner before I went. There was people from the city council and the police department and the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Association, and all of this were all at this dinner, all sharing little words of what our church and ministry had meant to them. And the national government, the MPs, which are the national representatives, they presented me with a plaque. I was going to put a picture up on it, but I didn't get it to Jerry in time. And it was this plaque stating how much our work of meeting the needs of these people had impacted the city, and how it will be greatly missed what we were doing. So it was a work that wasn't just another church on the corner having a nice little Sunday service, but it was a ministry that was reaching and touching the needs of the people around. And that's what my prayer is to be there to touch and meet the needs wherever we go, however it works, however we can do it. And I have a passion for that still today. So I love what I do, and I will continue doing it as long as God gives me breath. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for all of the lives that were touched through the feeding program. The feeding programs that have been birthed out of this one, Father, and has been inspired to do what they're doing in Argentina and in so many places, Lord. And there's a place in Africa. There's the Miami fellows, the ones that are doing it downtown Vancouver, Lord. They've all learned and been inspired to do what they're doing because of a little work that you started in a park in New Westminster, British Columbia. But Lord, I thank you for each and every life that has been touched and changed. And although there wasn't a condition put on them, Lord, so many came to know you through it because they wanted to know why we would do what we were doing, why we were loving them as we were loving them. But it's only because it's your love, Lord. So, Father, I ask that you will touch hearts of those who are listening to even be inspired to meet that one person at a time, if that's what they're able to do. As Mother Teresa said, if you can't feed 100, feed just one. So, Lord, thank you so much for this time that you gave us today. And may your hand be upon each and every person that gets to hear it, Lord. In your precious name, amen. Hallelujah. Well, I hope it's been inspiring and encouraging for you, seeing God do these miracles all along the way. Can you imagine 10 days before a Christmas dinner, not even having one turkey yet, when posters are up all over the town announcing turkey dinner? Well, the last Christmas dinner that we did before I moved, We had about 2,000 people. It kept growing and growing and growing every year, but we still had full turkey dinner and Christmas gifts for everybody. May God bless you as you have a wonderful week. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, into this work, feel free to do so. Jerry will put the links up on the screen. God bless you. We'll see you next week.